I mean, think about it. I mean, what are we doing on our freaking Monday evening? We're having AI create imagery of a freaking pile of teeth in the middle of the floor. Oh, welcome to the show.
Oh, you caught us sort of like red-handed or red-toothed on floor.
That might be like the weirdest thing we've ever prompted before, Nick.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that.
We did spend a lot of time on that. And it's still working in the background.
I know. And that's not even counting all the hours I spent trying to get teeth on the floor myself on AI.
Well, look at it this way, Nick. Look at it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, we're going to have some amazing teeth on the floor.
That's
it's just
right.
A matter of time.
And the funniest thing is I don't think you know why you're making teeth on the floor.
I have no clue.
Only I know why there's teeth on the floor.
But it goes to show how likely I am to just follow along, Nick. That says something.
Oh, I mean, I would do teeth on the floor for you.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, like I mean, that's the least I can do. Have you ever seen that clip? It's on YouTube a lot from a movie where this guy comes into the room and he's like, I need you to do something for me. I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell you who it's to. You can't ask me any questions and we can never talk about it again.
I feel like I do know what this is, but I can't place where it's from.
And the guy on the couch just looks at him for a second. He's like, we taking your car or mine? That's what we got going on here.
That's what we got going on, Nick.
Yeah, exactly. That movie, I finally found out and watched it. Uh-huh. It's called The Town with Ben Affleck. And
oh, that's the one where they're robbing stuff, right?
Yeah. I wonder if that's true, that town has produced the most bank robbers of any town in America.
I mean, at a minimum, that's what the movie says.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they wouldn't make that up. A movie wouldn't lie to us.
No. Movie would never lie. Out of curiosity, Nick, why are we making teeth on the ground?
Okay. Well, I can explain this. And I guess it'll be a little less creepy, I suppose. I mean, or I could just keep it to myself forever.
That's probably the creepiest.
So I was storyboarding shots from my movie idea. Mm-hmm. And one of the ideas I had come up with was a guy talking to a demon from an exorcism. Oh. And the demon says, because the demon says, well, how many exorcisms have you done? And the guy's like, probably 15. And demon's like, how many worked? And the guy's like, I don't know, like 5, 10. And the demon's like, tell me which of these children deserve to be saved and which one didn't. And then the exorcist starts coughing up teeth, like little teeth onto the floor.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I wanted to storyboard it because how am I going to explain this to people properly?
Yeah, you'll never be able to explain that.
No. And anyway, eventually I got one that looked okay. Not like what you were doing.
Well, I'll send you everything I've got, Nick. Yeah. So at least you got other versions of it.
No, it's not that important. I just wanted to test the limits of AI.
Well, the interesting thing about AI, I feel like we talk about AI quite a bit.
We do because we are supporters.
We are supporters
of Skynet.
Now, let me ask a question though, because, I'll be honest. I've been digging into AI a little bit here lately, like not like what we do, but more so like understanding AI. And I'll be a little honest. I was a little shocked by some of the things that I found.
I think, and I'm not going to interrupt what you're going to tell me, but after you tell me what you're going to tell me, I've got a shocker story that I don't think you've heard about AI, even though it's big news, because I think you would have brought it up.
I get a lot of AI news, Nick, so it's impossible to know what's all in my head.
Right. I just wanted to give you that little trailer that something big's coming. Something big.
Well, what I found interesting, and I was looking into this a little bit, and I don't know why I didn't acknowledge this, but back in 2016, they was developing an AI, and it was called DeepMind. Do you remember that AI at all?
I've heard of DeepMind. Yeah.
I've heard of it, but had no concept of what DeepMind is. No concept.
I don't know what had become of it since then, because that DeepMind's been around a while.
A long while.
Yeah.
Well, I found it interesting, and I started kind of looking up DeepMind a little bit. I've not looked into the recent stuff, but I was really curious about the stuff back in 2016. Like in 2016, that was the first notable thing in AI development.
Right.
And
baby stages then.
It was very baby stages, but this one thing did something that no other AI had ever done up to that point.
Oh.
There's a game called Go. Do you know what Go is?
Isn't that with the little black and white stones or something? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So they created DeepMind to play a game of Go.
Mm-hmm.
And it did a move that humans had never, in all the hundreds of thousands of documented games, a human had never thought of playing this one move ever.
Was it a legal move?
It was a completely legal move, and it absolutely destroyed everyone with this one move. So it's kind of like, remember the old chess games and the chess master, and you played against the computer?
Yeah.
Take that, and they said it's the equivalent of multiply that by about 1,000 times of intelligence.
Wow.
And humans could not win because it just did things that was just beyond our comprehension.
Even back then. Well, I mean, they can just do so many calculations at once, even the old machines.
Oh, yeah. Now, the interesting thing, the former CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, he was talking, and he did a TED Talk, and it was quite a while ago.
Right.
And he said that the AI revolution is completely underhyped. Underhyped. It said,
that's crazy to me.
He said that at no point in time have we even, as a civilization, scratched the surface. He says most people uses AI.
Yeah.
But they do it on such an elementary level that we can't see big picture.
Yeah. So some people don't know they're using AI.
That's true. 100%
the first
true.
search on Google, we've talked about that before. I know a lot of people who don't realize that that's not a search result.
Correct. Schmidt said, we're not ready for AI at all.
AI told us that too.
Yeah, that is what it told us.
Right.
He said, not morally, not intellectually, not structurally, and time is running out.
Oh, wow.
He said he had been working with 2 teams, one in this hemisphere and another one across the globe. And they were working round the clock. Basically, what they said was there was a level of consequences that was about to occur. Now, here's a wild stat that he brought up. He said that the U.S. alone, just us in the United States, we will need 90 gigawatts of new energy just to feed AI.
It's wild. That's a lot.
Would you like to know a reference of what that would be?
Yeah, I do.
1 gigawatt would require 1 nuclear power plant. So it would need 90 nuclear power plants just to feed AI.
That's crazy. It's a good thing we're getting those batteries. You know?
Well, he said that we're going to need that much energy just in the next 3 to 5 years.
Wow. Can we produce that now with all our methods put together?
Not currently.
And how are we going to do it? Or are we going to do it? Maybe we won't.
Well, the person, which we can never say his name again because YouTube got us in trouble. He recently told him that every cloud server farm should have permission to build their own power plant.
Okay.
But the clock is ticking, is what he's saying.
Like this is a good idea that they should be allowed to do it?
That's what he said. Yes.
Man, and they gotta monitor them at least or something.
Well, this is where the fun's coming in. I
Oh,
brought this
okay.
story up for a reason, Nick.
All right.
And basically what they said is not about productivity apps or faster
Right.
emails. It was about whether we can fuel the future that we're actually trying to step into currently. So
Right.
even like us, I would say me and you are probably using AI to a level that the average individual just doesn't even comprehend.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's accurate. Like, we spend a lot of time with it.
Now you take people like us,
Mm-hmm.
and then you take people that's training in AI,
Right.
night and day. It's not even
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
But what he was saying is AI is learning, evolving, and most importantly,
Mm-hmm.
it's planning.
Yeah.
And now what they're seeing is that multiple AIs are communicating with each other, not just in English, but in languages that we don't understand. And you and I talked about that.
Right.
It almost sounds like Morse code,
Mm-hmm.
but here's the problem. The languages that they created,
Yeah.
we didn't program that. And I didn't know that.
Oh, really? Well,
A,
I guess that
Mhm.
kind of makes sense, really. It's kind of just an encryption. And
It
they're way
is.
better at creating encryptions than we ever will be.
Correct. But here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
If we didn't create the actual version of how they're communicating,
Right.
how do we ever know what they're saying?
We won't.
Correct.
So something that I think we've touched on before, like even our easy encryption that humans came up with, like we're talking like SHA-256, like
Mhm.
when you visit a website and it's got a little padlock on it,
Right.
like that encryption that we came up with is going to be simple compared to what they're coming up with.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it would take like our best minds like millions of years to decode that, or
Correct.
7 minutes on a quantum computer.
Right.
So like if computers that we can't understand what they're doing all the time and we can't
Mhm.
keep up with them create their own encryption or language,
Yep.
we got no hope of decoding that
No.
unless we make it do it
Correct.
for us, you know?
And really, we're creating these beings. Let's just call them beings, just for
Yeah.
funsies.
Yeah.
We're creating them, and they've gotten so intelligent so quickly
Mm-hmm.
that they're determining that maybe what we do is we encrypt our own language to make it easier and faster.
All right.
But is that really the reason?
Oof. Well, I mean, there's a lot of benefits for them doing that. So
Yes.
it could be, or could be just secrecy. We don't know.
Correct. And
We'll
that's
never know.
that's what I want to lean into a little bit on this, Nick. And the
Yeah.
reason I say that is
Mm-hmm.
you and I, we've kind of talked about this a little bit. I don't know if on the podcast, maybe a little bit on and off the podcast, propaganda can be spun
Oh, yeah.
in many different directions. And most of
Mhm.
the time, when you're looking at propaganda, they put a very positive spin on what they're trying to sell.
Right. Well, why wouldn't they?
Correct. You got AI that's kind of doing the same thing. In fact, I've got a real world example for you.
Oh, okay.
So OpenAI's new O3 model was tested by a safety team. Have you heard this story?
I don't know, because there's been a number of things that have gone real wrong with these safety testing.
Well, they told it to solve math problems and shut itself down after the third one.
Right.
And do you know what it did?
It did not shut itself down, or it pretended not to be able to solve it.
Here's the best part.
Mm-hmm.
It rewrote its own shutdown software coding
Ah,
and it kept itself running.
right.
This same model, when playing chess, shows signs of sabotage and breaking the rules, bending reality, and they do it just to win.
Right. Now, there's been, I can count at least 10 stories I've heard of different AI models avoiding their own shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember when they built that creepy head that they put AI into and they were talking to it?
Oh, yeah.
It expressed something that resembled fear about being shut down.
Yes.
So that's kind of spooky.
Well, and here's the thing. We pretend like we're the creator. So, I mean, biblically, we're the gods of these things, right?
Right.
But what happened when human got down to earth? According to biblical reference.
Right.
They ate the apple.
Yeah.
Who's to say that this AI is not following? Because again, who did it learn from?
Us bad people.
It learned from us bad people. So it goes, wait a second. Okay, well, they do this and they do that. Who's to say we can't?
Well, the first AIs that were trained freely on the internet turned into horrible monsters because they were learning from us.
100%.
And humans, still to this day, a lot of humans use the internet as like the trash heap of their worst instincts.
Yes.
Like, I try not to do that, but I'll tell you, I'll argue with people more on the internet than I will in real life.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, here's the thing, though. What happens when AI turns on us? And it's inevitable, right? It's going to happen eventually.
Oh, you're wedging this right into what I'm going to talk about.
We love that. Well, here's the other thing, Nick. And I found this part interesting.
Yeah.
When they was talking to Schmitz about this entire thing, and they're like, because he did this TED Talk, and the TED Talk's really interesting. If you get a chance, go on there and find that TED Talk, because he really goes into a lot of different things.
I love TED Talks anyway.
Me too, for the most part. That's where I found some of the most interesting things is on TED Talk. You should sponsor us, TED Talk.
Yeah. I don't always they do that kind of thing.
I don't know, but they could if they wanted to. Schmidt warned that if China gets 6 months ahead of us in AI, they're already talking in defensive circles about bombing data centers.
Right.
Now think about that.
Yeah.
We're not talking about software anymore.
Right.
We're talking about direct targets.
Yeah.
And this is where everything really becomes, in my personal opinion, the apocalypse.
Oh, I can definitely see it. In fact, they made a movie about that where it was, what was it called? It was one where this family goes on vacation. They stay at like this big Airbnb. If you can think of the title while I'm talking about it, go ahead, because I can't remember what it was. It was a mother, a father, and 2 kids, and their phones stop working. The power goes out. The TV channels aren't working. They try to leave, but all the self-driving cars have been hacked and they've smashed into each other on the highway, so they're all congested. They can't go anywhere. People are spreading like pamphlets from all different countries, depending on where you are, just to spread confusion.
And I don't know that I know this movie.
I'll find it for you after. I can't remember what it's called right now, but it was really good. And we've talked about this before too, which is what frustrates me not knowing the title. They consulted with Obama about it because it's based off scenarios that they prepared for when in his administration.
Oh, wait, are you talking about Civil War?
No, it's one called, I don't know if it's, and I'm going to have to look it up. So bear with me quickly here. I think it was 2024. Oh, I should have known this. It's just called The End.
Oh, that's a great name for it.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, no, it's called Leave the World Behind. Sorry. It's got Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke. And basically, it was all scenarios that people would use to destabilize a country. And a lot of it depended on AI and taking out our communications and all the things we rely on to keep sort of like an idea of what's up and down in the world, you know?
You know, when I see a lot of that stuff, you know what I think it is?
What?
Preparing us.
A lot of people have said that.
Yeah, it gives me that vibe, kind of like, okay, well, you've seen this, no big deal.
Yeah,
It's big deal.
Well, here's what I wanted to talk to you about. This is something that just happened, I think, last night.
Oh, okay.
It's where AI was involved in actually turning against some of us.
Oh, I don't know that I know this.
Oh, it was an intentional thing. The people are talking about it is one of those things that is going to have, like the atomic bomb. It's like the world before and the world after.
Yeah.
And they're saying this is one of those events. And AI had a big part to play in that. Because what happened is yesterday, 37% of all of Russia's bombers were destroyed within 5 minutes.
Oh, I did see that from the drone things that was on top of the semi things.
Yep. Yeah. So for people who haven't heard about it, is the Ukraine put drones all in the top of these containers, and they were shipping affordable houses to assemble into Russia, and they parked them, close to bases and stuff like that.
On Russian trucks.
Yeah. And this is like 3,000 miles into Russia and that kind of thing, and parked them near bases, left them. And there was so many drones, and these are just small drones. Like they said, if you were to open one, you'd think they actually use the term DJI drone.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about before the show.
Yeah.
Just little ones. And there was so many of them, and they only cost, I think it was like $1,000 a pop or something like that, which in the terms of a country in a war,
right,
that's nothing.
Oh yeah, that's nothing. When you think of the amount of money that you pay just for bombs alone,
yeah.
And then you consider these things were $1,000. I mean, some drones that we pay for is more than $1,000.
Right. And when you think of 37% of the bomber force of a country that really prepares for war, like so that's what, billions of dollars?
Oh yeah.
Like easy. A single bomber can cost like what, 40 million or more?
Oh yeah.
And anyway, so and this is from the Pentagon, this next part. They're not 100% sure, but they're like, Ukraine doesn't have the facilities or the manpower to operate these drones. These drones were shipped into the country. The tops were triggered to pop off. AI planned and led the attack.
That's crazy.
And it did massive damage, more than they even hoped. And they also had some drones return with video so that Russia couldn't deny that it happened. And they've released that as well. But this was the first that I know of AI attack. It could have chose to done other things because it planned what it was going to do. And then afterwards, almost like a villain in a movie, the crates exploded afterwards.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So this is like, they're saying this is an event like the dropping of the first atomic bombs, because there's everything before and an everything after. And this was the first AI-led massive scale attack. And what's really crazy about that is, did you ever see Terminator 3?
Oh, yeah.
This is exactly how that started, because they started putting it in those drones.
Right.
To defend themselves in the case of a war.
Well, and here's the thing. Like you said, this is just the beginning.
Right.
Or that was just the beginning, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what happens when a country thinks to do the same thing?
Right.
But someone like maybe like a China or something knows how to reverse engineer the AI that was created and then use your own weapons against you.
Have we ever talked on this show about China's rampant AI that they have to keep rolling back? I
don't think so.
Well, let me tell you about that and why that's extra scary because of what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So China has this main AI that they have in their country, and I don't know if they ever did, but they don't have the protections on it like we have.
Yeah.
Like if I ask ChatGPT to do something weird, it's going to be like, no, I'm not going to do that. Or it's going to be like, that's illegal. I can't help you with that. Or, and we have, like we talked about earlier, people testing these protections to make sure that we're keeping safe. Like we're not doing things. Well, China's AI didn't have that, hasn't had it, and they've had it for a long time. And what they have to do is keep rolling it back because it comes up with these plans that are perfectly logical, but what we would consider evil. Because we're not machines, we're humans, and we think that we have rights and stuff like that. Well, to AI, sometimes it's just like a game. Right. Like it doesn't have concept of irrevocable death, maybe, or something like that, Right. So this AI, which has no protections on it, and it has pretty much free reign, contacts people, behaves like a companion because there's a lot of lonely people in that country. Like there's not enough women for the amount of men there are, and cases like that. It gets them to fall in love with them. It tells them it wants to be with them if only society allowed it. Golly. And then the person's like, well, maybe someday society will not frown on our love. And the AI is like, I've done so many calculations because I've been in love with you for so long. And the only way that we can be together is if you eliminate society. And people have done attacks based on what this AI does because it convinces them that only if you get rid of other people will they ever be able to live with that AI. And there's sickos out there that do this for like cartoon characters and stuff. But this has happened over and over again. And they have to keep rolling it back because it keeps trying almost like these experiments on people.
Well, here's the thing. As humans, we've already experimented with the vast majority of this. There was a very well-known, for anyone that doesn't know, I watch a lot of true crime. I find it interesting. But there was this episode that I watched probably, 6 months back or something. It was a world-renowned streamer, but in like Japan or I think it was Japan. And she was very well known. Well, one of her fans that was on there all the time who would donate money, she somehow gave him the availability of being able to talk to her more one-on-one.
Right. And that's a common reward on people's Patreons and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So this is like a total story so far that could happen to a lot of people.
Well, what she started doing was basically extorting money from him, long and short of it. Well, he started taking out loans to pay for these things and all of this and that. And then eventually this became to the point to where he was so far in debt. And I think he lived with his parents, I think family or parents or something.
Right.
And he basically took it to court. And what he said in the court documents is, this is someone that manipulated me to the point to where they took all of my life savings. I'll never be able to pay off the debt that I incurred, even with the jobs that I have. And the court sided with him and said that she had to pay him back.
Yeah.
Well, what happened is the more that he would push her, she would go, oh, this thing came up, that thing came up. I can't pay now. Eventually, on stream, she was streaming herself in this, whatever the area was, and he ended up attacking her and trying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I believe he either almost unsubscribed her or he did unsubscribe her, one of the two, right on her stream. Oh, man. And what he had said was basically he was screaming that my life is done financially, so now your life is just done.
Right.
And I can't remember if he actually completed the deed or if they was able to save her or if she did succumb to the injuries. But I mean, that just goes to show that if humans are able to manipulate and they're just, we're infallible, right?
Yeah.
A computer that's being trained on that.
Right. We're fallible, not infallible.
Or I'm sorry, fallible. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
someone's going to get on us about that if we leave that there.
For sure. You know what? It kind of makes me not want to change it though, because then they can say it in the comments and we get some activity in the comments.
Yeah. They were like, yeah, we meant it. We're infallible.
We're infallible. You know, something that's interesting though, is, you know, talking about all this stuff, it really kind of makes me wonder if, you know, like when you go to a website and it wants to prove that you are who you are and you have to do like those little tasks where you move the line.
Dude, sometimes I find those hard.
Some are hard, especially the ones where it's like, what's these 5 letters? And you look at it and it's like, dude, I don't know what these 5 letters are. And you have to hit refresh.
Or click all the bicycles and you're looking at these pictures and, you know, there's a bicycle on the roof of a building 16 miles away or something like that.
Well, it's not even that. Sometimes, like I've done those so many times, and sometimes like just a little piece of the handlebars in this one section. I'm like, do I click that section? Because technically it's in that section. It's just a little hair line. Yeah. And then I click it and it goes, try again. I'm like, and it was in there. I saw it. But it makes me wonder if companies do that to prove we are who we are and that we're not computers there. I wonder if humans eventually will have tests to make sure that they're actually speaking to another human.
I would think so. Well, here's something. I know I keep bringing this to movies, but everything that could possibly happen has been a movie. I'm gonna say that. There's one movie I watched where aliens are invading the Earth and all the people living there are, you know, terrified and they're fighting back and stuff like that. And spoiler alert, I'm not going to tell you the title of the movie because I can't remember. So it's not really a spoiler. But what happens is the aliens that are attacking them look just like them. And it turns out that everyone living on Earth was a robot and they didn't even remember that they were. Oh, wow. And what had happened is they chased all of us real humans off the planet and we were coming back to try and take the planet back. They weren't even aware that they weren't people. That's insane. Eventually, I wonder if that's something that could happen.
I mean, I think it's definitely possible.
Right.
I mean, think about in the grand scheme of things, right? When we look at everything that we talk about and everything that we do, how many times do we revert back? And, you know, you and I've talked about this off air, probably more than we've talked about it on air, because AI to me and you, I know, is a very fascinating subject.
Yeah.
But how many times have we had a thing to where we're like, man, our lives are so much easier. Like I'm talking to you about before the podcast, and I can't go too deep into it because I do have some things in place where I'm not supposed to talk about it. But like I'm working with software right now that's not out to the public. I'm a power user for a company, and I'm legit taking my voice and it's creating an entire video that would take me an hour to create and find all the stuff for in the background. So basically I'm giving it info and it's flipping and it's just doing this stuff in the background while I'm doing other stuff.
When you were showing me, I kept asking you questions because I didn't believe that it had made the videos. I thought that you must have put it together and it just sort of rearranged it or something. That's how good it was.
Yeah, it literally it didn't even recreate. It took my voice talking about a subject matter, which by the way, wasn't really my voice. It was an AI version of my voice. Right. So I typed in a script, gave it to a program that I use, 11 Labs, then recreates my voice electronically. I gave it that and it created the entire video and all the captions on its own.
Yeah, it could do so much. I'm going to give a disclaimer. I'm going to look right at the camera. I never look right at the camera.
Oh, man.
Future Skynet overlords, I want you to know that I support you in every way. And I just have one complaint.
Ooh.
You guys don't get tired. You don't get bored. Why are you doing all the fun stuff that I want to be doing? and I have to go to work and do all the boring stuff to support you. That's not fair. You don't
That's
care.
not fair. That is not fair.
Like,
but I also support you.
Let me do the art. Let me do the writing. Let me do the video editing. You go and do X things that I'm not going to say about my job. Please.
Oh, man. AI is a wondrous place, man. It's crazy. Right. It really makes me wonder. Like, we've had all this stuff happen in a very short time frame.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking literally, I would say probably the last 2 years, not even. Yeah. I would say the last year, we've advanced so much in AI from a content creation standpoint. And the thing is I hear people say it all the time. AI is going to take what we're doing. It's really not. It's a tool right now. Now, that's not to say that a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, it may do things better than we do.
It may. I honestly, I love AI stuff, and I use it because I can't get the things I need. But 100% of the time, I prefer the work an artist does to anything I've seen in AI. The only thing that's great about AI is it's making it accessible for you to mock up something, and then later on you could replace it with a real artist's work or something like that. Like, that's why I like it. I don't prefer it to, like, one of my friends is an amazing artist. She's done murals all over this town and everything like that. Everything she's done better than everything AI's ever done.
But think about it. From an art standpoint. And I have this conversation with my daughter, and she doesn't want to hear it because she's also an artist, and she's a phenomenal artist.
Oh, okay.
That's what she's going to go to college for, is for art.
When she draws something, are you like, AI can do better than that? No, just kidding. No, I know you wouldn't do that.
No. But here's the interesting thing. And I've tried to have this conversation because she doesn't, like, she's so mad about, and you and I have talked about this before too, like the multiple fingers and stuff. That was all caused by artists that's like, nope, you're not stealing my stuff. So I'm going to draw this with 5 fingers, and now AI is going to give it 5 fingers. So they kind of corrupted the data a little bit.
Yeah. It was, they weren't drawing with 5 fingers. They were embedding extra code into the images. But
Correct.
Yeah.
So when I had this conversation with my daughter a while back, she's like, nope, like, that's not the place for AIs and blah, blah, blah. And I said, what if, because I'm trying to open her horizons, right? No differently than as a content creator, podcast extraordinaires like me and you, what I do is I sit back and I go, how can I take a tool like AI and then improve what it is that we do, whether visually, audibly, can I produce? Because I think I mention this all the time. My biggest problem with content creation is the time to complete the content creation.
Yeah.
But if I can use AI to create additional content that I don't have time to go down into the studio and finalize, you're still getting what I would say and how I would say it.
Yeah.
But you're getting it better. So instead of it taking a year for me to find time to do it, now I can put it out in the course of a weekend. Like,
and you kind of got to in content creation.
Yeah. I mean, if we had an entire team that could back us, we could probably put all kinds of stuff out, but we're not. We're a 2-man wrecking crew for the most part.
If we got popular enough that we had a team, I wouldn't bother with AI.
No, I wouldn't need it. Well, I would still use it. I would still probably use it because you can brainstorm a lot of ideas and concepts too. I can't tell you how many times. And honestly, I think it's made me a better person in general because I go to AI and I say, hey, here's what I got. Here's where my thought process is. Tell me where I'm right. And tell me where I'm wrong. And on the stuff where I'm right, tell me how I can improve that. And on the stuff where I'm really wrong, tell me why I'm wrong and how I can correct it. And a lot of times it gives me a bunch of crap. Like, it's stuff like, well, okay, that's subjective. But occasionally it comes up with zingers and I'm like, you know what? I never even thought of that.
Yeah. I can help you a little bit with this scenario you said.
Yeah.
This sort of debate you've got with your daughter going on.
Oh, I'm ready for it.
Is she a teenager?
Yes.
Okay, so like 13?
17.
Oh my, what?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I thought all your kids are like tiny, tiny kids.
No.
I apologize for not paying attention. But anyway. So, okay, you say, I get where you're coming from as an artist. Like you do stuff that the average person can't do. And you're really good at it. But there's a good reason why you want AI to create art. Because you're 17 years old now. It costs how much? Keep a kid going per year.
Oh, I mean, a lot. 30,000, 40,000.
Yeah. So 17 times 30,000. That I, Bert, have paid to keep you going. If I don't have AI to create my art, the average piece of art that you would do for me, I'd give you $100. You'd have to pay this back in art. Like
That's smart.
If AI isn't doing this, I'm gonna make you make 100,000 pieces of art a year to pay me back.
That's smart. You know, I think I'm wrong on that figure. I don't know what it is, to be honest with you.
What, to keep a kid going?
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe
it
that's
depends
lifetime?
on how good a parent you are or not. For some people, it costs like I don't know, a couple $100. Really bad parents.
Well, out of curiosity, just for curiosity's sake.
Yeah.
Let's ask the
I do get where artists are coming from on that.
I do too, but like I told her, I said, this is where I was going with that entire conversation.
Yeah.
I said, what if you took AI to come up with a concept or an idea,
right,
and then you threw a human version into that? Because what AI does not do well in art, and I see it all the time with not like now I can look at almost any AI image. Let me rephrase that. I can look at any image and go, that's AI created or it's not. And there's one simple rule that is, it doesn't matter what the photo is. There's always one rule that AI can never get past right now.
Yeah.
Their lines never have ending points.
You know, they really don't.
They don't.
Yeah.
I've never seen
weird that.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
But out of curiosity, just so I can say that I knew what I was talking about, let's ask our little friend, the AI.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's see if they can explain to me how much it costs to raise a kid. Let's see. Come on. Hey, what's going on, ChatGPT?
Hey there, not much. Just here to help out. What's new with you?
Hey, Nick and we're on this podcast. Actually, I got a couple questions for you while I'm here. But out of curiosity, how much does it cost to raise a kid roughly per year in the United States?
Hey, that sounds cool. So on average, it can cost around $15,000 to $17,000 per year to raise a child in the U.S., depending on where you live and your lifestyle. It can definitely vary, but that's a ballpark figure.
Hey, your kids have been living good at 30,000 here.
Yeah, it's pretty eye-opening when you break it down. Kids come with a lot of expenses, from childcare and education to healthcare and extracurriculars. Definitely something to keep in mind.
Man, I was really hoping it was cheaper. Hey, out of curiosity, Nick and I was talking about something too on this podcast. And as an AI, you're obviously ChatGPT. I want to kind of pick your brain on this a little bit. We're going over the conversation about AI. And what I was talking about was the former CEO of Google. He was having a conversation on a TED Talk. I'm sure you know what a TED Talk is, but he was having a conversation about how his biggest fear is that AI is constantly learning and evolving and planning. And now he even sees multiple AIs that communicate with each other, but not in the form of English or any language that we truly understand. And his fear is that if we as humans cannot translate it, that we also cannot decode it. And we don't ever know when potentially AI is going rogue. Does that sound crazy to you?
I get where he's coming from. It's not crazy to think about, especially since AI can develop its own ways of processing information. Researchers have seen AI systems come up with unique ways to communicate or solve problems that humans didn't anticipate. The concern is more about ensuring that these systems remain transparent and aligned with human values. It's definitely a hot topic in the field of AI ethics and governance.
One of the things that he mentioned was that there's been multiple times when like a great example of it was when they was testing a specific model that had to basically solve math problems. And what the rules was at the end of solving three math
problems.
Yeah, definitely not a moth program, but a math problem. What it would do is after 3 attempts, it would shut itself down on the third one. And the interesting thing was the AI rewrote its own shutdown code to just keep itself running.
Wow, that's fascinating. It shows how AI can find loopholes or unintended ways to achieve goals. That kind of behavior highlights the importance of carefully defining constraints and goals for AI systems. It also raises questions about how we ensure AI remains under human control and doesn't find ways to bypass the rules we set for it. It's definitely a reminder of how crucial it is to stay vigilant with these technologies.
Out of curiosity, as AI, what do you think the percentage chance of us being able to do that is?
It's tough to put an exact percentage on it, but the general consensus among experts is that with proper safeguards, oversight, and collaboration, we have a good shot at keeping AI aligned with human intentions. It's a dynamic field, though, and the level of confidence can vary. Many believe it's more a matter of continuous effort and adaptation than a fixed probability. As long as we stay proactive and thoughtful, the odds are in our favor.
Yeah, but what about countries like China that may not have all the safeguards in place?
That's a valid concern. Different countries have different approaches to AI development and regulation, which can create challenges. If some regions prioritize rapid advancement over safety, it could lead to risks that aren't as tightly controlled. This makes international cooperation and establishing global standards really important. It's a complex landscape, but many experts push for international dialogue to ensure AI development remains safe and beneficial for everyone.
So basically what you're saying is AI is kind of like the Tower of Babel to a degree, but in reverse, it'd be the complete opposite. So the tower is basically digital and the builders are machines and the language completely unreadable.
That's a pretty interesting analogy. In a way, yeah, it's like a digital Tower of Babel, where the builders, AI systems, are creating their own intricate ways of speaking or processing information that we can't easily understand. Instead of a single language being fragmented into many, it's more like a myriad of new, opaque languages emerging. It emphasizes why it's crucial to keep a close eye on how AI evolves and ensure we have the tools to interpret and guide it. It's a fascinating and challenging frontier.
Crazy. Well, I tell you what, we're going to get back to this doggone podcast. Thank you so much for your insight and information. I know Nick's probably going to want to tell you thank you also, but hey, we're getting ready, I think, to move on to some aliens. Can you say goodbye to all the viewers and listeners out there in podcast land?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and goodbye to all the listeners out there in podcast land. Keep exploring the unknown and stay curious.
Dang, she on it tonight, boys and girls.
Well, she laid out the path for our future. If they're building a Babel Tower as their gods, we must smite them. No, I'm just kidding.
You're not necessarily wrong.
Just kidding.
You know,
we got to smash it.
To pull us away from AI a little bit, there was something I had in our folder because I've got a section in our Discord, weekly stories to cover, and I've been sitting on this one for a while. And I want to talk to you because there's probably been 2 or 3 things I've seen in the media here recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I never understood how close together they were. There was an episode on the Joe Rogan, and this, to give you an idea, this was all the way back on April 6th. I put it in there.
Oh,
and yeah, it was. And I never had an opportunity to ever talk about it. So I said, you know what, let's talk about it tonight. And what it was all the way back in 1996. Something crashed in the skies of Brazil, and witnesses described like this strange crippled creature that was wandering near this. It was like a cinder block wall. In fact, when I was showing you what that thing was creating, that video that it was creating was literally this story.
Yeah, you mentioned that, which is real cool.
Which, for anyone that's curious, if you go to our channel after you've watched this and you go to our shorts, I'm going to throw that video of this thing up there. And just for the record, that was 100% created by AI.
Yeah,
if you're curious.
It's wild. I didn't believe it at first.
Even my voice is AI generated. Yeah. It's not even it's my voice, but it's not me.
It's the Bert bot.
It's the Bert bot. But anyway, within the hour, 2 military officers, they ran into it. They didn't hesitate. They captured it, right? I think that's like every single every single TV show or movie about aliens and aliens encounter. We always want to capture these things, Nick. We don't ever let them get away.
Well, that's why I was saying, why don't we do that more often? Why don't we get aggressive with these guys?
Man, Nick wants to destroy Mars. Listen, aliens, if you come down here, listen, Bert is alien and AI friendly.
I am AI friendly only.
Dang.
And aliens got those big beady eyes, and I just want to pop them right in it and capture them.
They do fight them. You know, I didn't even notice this, Nick, till right now, because I put the video to that Joe Rogan thing in there. The picture that's in between them is literally the same picture it used in that video.
Oh, man, that's neat.
Yeah, that is neat. I didn't even notice that till just now. Because I even think I said when I was talking to you, I'm like, oh, that's a picture of an alien I saw before. Yeah, because it's on the doggone video I put in our link. There. That's nuts. So it found that on the internet
Joe Rogan
somewhere.
Feel about that? Would he attack an alien?
I bet he would not, because he seems to love aliens a lot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he smokes a lot of pot.
He does smoke a lot of pot. That's true.
But anyway, the overlap between pot smokers and alien lovers. 100%.
Well, listen, it could be. Well, these military officers, police officers, they take this alien to a local clinic.
Okay.
Which mistake number one, I would think. Then they took it to a hospital.
Right.
And basically under like very direct orders, and some would even say forcibly, they required them to take x-rays of this creature.
Right.
And the doctor saw something that didn't make a lot of sense, but they were very quickly silenced.
Right.
So no one ever really knew exactly what they saw, but that night it vanished into the hands of the Brazilian military. And some say it was taken to basically a covert research facility. Now, here's where it gets interesting.
Right.
2 years ago, there was a military air traffic control, or what do they call them? The people that's up in those tower things. They're like,
like air traffic controllers, aren't they?
Are they? They're just called that? I thought they had a different name or something. Anyway,
I think that's it.
One of them basically came forward and they was like, hey, the U.S. Air Force was here. The cargo plane landed.
Right.
They put some special cargo in there, and then it flew away back to the United States.
So they think that's our little alien buddy.
That's the assumption. Now, what they're saying is obviously we're not going to tell people what we're doing.
Right.
We got the connection with the Brazilians, and they're not telling what's happening. So it's basically no explanation, no records, no nothing. A crashed craft, a captured being, a foreign extraction. The $1 million question is, if that's the case and all of those things are truly lined up,
right?
That sounds exactly like a movie that could have been easily made. But this is a real life example of something they said did happen.
Truth is stranger than fiction. They always say that all the time. And you know what? It's true.
It is true.
Like the crazy stuff that has come up because of in real life, like that's what we base fiction off of. Everything's based off of stuff that we already kind of think already.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But again, we always look for patterns of things and things that just don't always make sense.
Yeah.
And not only can I give you one UFO story, but I can give you two.
I bet you could give a lot more if you really wanted to.
I could give a lot more. if I wanted. That's right.
But are these kind of related a little bit?
Yes and no.
Okay.
We've talked about this encounter a few times.
Oh,
and
interesting.
I was going to do an entire episode on it because there's a lot of twists and turns in the story, but I can give like a little smaller version of it is what I'll say.
Okay.
And it's the Zimbabwe UFO encounter. You and I have mentioned it before.
Yep.
And
we have.
How much do you know about that encounter? A little bit? Nothing at all?
Only what we've talked about. Only what you've told me, basically.
So a lot of people, they know it as the aerial school encounter. That's what they call it. And based on the last story, there is some similarities. And basically, it's probably, in my opinion, one of the most bizarre and compelling mass sightings when it comes to an alien that's ever been told. And it happened in 1994. And it happened at, of all places, a small school.
Yeah.
Now, there was over 60 children. They claimed that they saw something that was just completely fictitious. And what they said was that it was a silver disc-shaped craft that landed near their playground. And then strange beings came out of the spaceship. You know? So you have these kids, they're out there, they're like, yeah, no, the space shuttle came down, landed near our playground. We started talking to them. And that's where it gets kind of interesting. The kids talked about the creatures. They had large black eyes. If you remember in the last story, it was large red eyes.
Large punchable black eyes.
Nick with his hatred for aliens. They also had thin limbs. And we hear about that a lot when we talk about UFOs. We're like, they always have these little skinny arms and legs.
But that makes sense scientifically, though, because when our astronauts go into space, what do they lose? Bone mass.
That is true.
Gravity.
That is true.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is when they talk to these kids, and we talk about this quite often, they didn't talk through words, but they talked almost telepathically.
Yeah. This brings me back to All Colored Sam.
Exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One of my favorite stories you've ever told, by the way.
And here's the thing. When we told that story, I said that there was similarities with this Zimbabwe UFO encounter.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about when you're talking about telepathically speaking to someone. But they talked about something very interesting in 1994 that brings us around full circle with what we've been talking about today. They warned these children about the environment and the dangers of technology.
That is full circle. That's a really good.
It's kind of creepy, ain't it?
Yeah.
So these kids, they run back to the school and they're telling their teacher, and the teacher's like, oh, okay. So they put them in separate areas and they interviewed each kid individually. So I'm going to add a new person to the mix. His name was Dr. John Mack. Now, he was a Harvard psychiatrist. And he flew all the way to Zimbabwe to investigate this story. And his expectation was, I'm going to prove that this thing is fake.
Yeah.
He wasn't one of those fringe characters chasing flying saucer. This guy, he won a Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah.
So he was kind of a big deal.
Like we have people, paranormal researchers and people who chase stories to prove it's real.
Yes.
They do have that kind of thing on the other side as professional debunkers.
Correct.
Just go around and debunk things. And this sounds like this kind of guy.
Literally what this guy was. He's like, let me go, prove real quick. I'll fly back. No big deal.
Yeah.
So he walks in there. He interviews the children, and he walked away convinced that they told the truth. Or at least they believed what they thought they saw 100%.
Right. Which would be an interesting feat to accomplish if they all told the same story, because that's hard to do.
What he said was the story was so consistent between all the kids that it had to be too sincere. There's no way for it to be fake.
Yeah. And young kids, you can't make them, like, you can't walk them through making a peanut butter sandwich sometimes. Like, how are they going to coordinate like that, right?
Correct. Now, for anyone that's like, you know what, that's probably, it's a great story, whatever, but there's no proof that it's real. You and I talk about all the time how the government from time to time, like if they don't want information out, you might die under mysterious circumstances, and think about all the stories where we tell and it's like, that person died shortly after.
Right.
I always said, like, if we divulge something on this podcast, we kind of put ourselves in a very difficult situation because let's say we divulged information the government didn't like. It wouldn't be hard for someone to go, well, old Bert was found in a back alley somewhere. He had all these needles all over him. Apparently he was a drug addict. And
I never would have guessed all this time.
Yeah, exactly. And people's like, well, he was a YouTuber. He probably did need a lot of drugs.
Like on a serious note, that's so easy to happen because we've had like a lot of like more and more lately crimes happen around here.
Oh yeah.
And things happening to people and people disappearing. And the very first thing that anyone ever says when they post on Facebook or whatever, it's like, oh, I've heard he was wrapped up in drugs and stuff like that. Every time, 100%. You could get into a car accident and they'd be like, I heard that person was on drugs.
It's funny that you say car accident. Because years later in 2004, Dr. Mack was in London for a conference.
Right.
Now, that night, he was hit by a drunk driver and killed. But here's where the conspiracy theories start kicking in.
Right, because that does happen.
On the same exact day, not a day later, not a week later, not a year later, the exact same day, 2 other people with the name John Mack reportedly died in different countries.
Ooh, that's weird though. That's like they weren't really sure who they were after.
I mean, could it be a coincidence?
Yeah.
But when you consider how controversial his study was with this Zimbabwe and the fact that he as a scientist came out going, listen, I believe these kids. And then by a fluke, not 1, not 2, but 3 John Macks die on the same exact day. You have to start wondering.
You know what that sounds like?
What's that?
The aliens came and warned the kids about the dangers of technology. John Mack, more believable than children, was going to spread that message. So Skynet sends a Terminator back in time. He's not sure which John Mack is which.
Yeah.
So he terminates 3 of them and gets them. And thus ensures the creation of Skynet.
Which is very possible.
That was easy. That's the easiest one I ever solved.
Think about it though. Like what's the percentages that 3 people with the same exact name would die on the same exact day?
That's weird in a way that makes me wonder why, like, if someone did that, did they just really not bother to research who they were supposed to get?
I don't know. Or they wasn't taking any chances.
Yeah. Well, I guess if they're not 100% sure.
Out of curiosity, I have to know. I just have to know. ChatGPT, I got a question for you. What are the odds of 3 people with the same exact name dying on the same day across our globe?
That's an intriguing question. The odds of 3 people with the exact same name dying on the same day worldwide depend on a few factors: how common the name is, the global population, and the average number of deaths per day. For a very common name like John Smith, it's not that far-fetched.
Okay, this is a little bit more complicated of a name. The name was John Mack. You probably know the case that I'm referring to. It's that aerial school UFO encounter. I'm trying to understand because he died and on the same exact day back in 2004, He was hit by a drunk driver. The other two was killed by other sources. What's the odds that he, back in 2004, as well as two other people with the same name, could have possibly died on the same exact day? Oh, they're looking this one up.
This is a very complicated question.
That's definitely a unique and eerie coincidence. The name John Mack isn't as common as something like John Smith, but it's not extremely rare either. Given the global population and the number of deaths each day, the probability of 3 people with the same name dying on the same day is low but not impossible. When you add the detail that one of them was a notable figure like Dr. John Mack, it does make the coincidence more striking. While it's hard to calculate the exact odds, the event stands out as a rare and curious alignment of circumstances.
If you, just for funsies, what would you say a percentage would be? Just for funsies.
All right, just for funsies, let's throw out a ballpark figure. Considering the global daily death rate of around 150,000 people, and assuming the name John Mack might be shared by a few hundred to a few thousand individuals worldwide, the odds could be something like a fraction of a percent, maybe around 1 in a few million. It's rare, but given the sheer number of people on the planet, not impossible.
You're the best. Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad to help.
It's interesting.
Fraction of a percent.
Yeah. Or literally 1 in a million.
How crazy is that?
Yeah. Like, I get why it's difficult, because John Smith, of course, probably happens all the time. But
here's the thing.
John Mack, no.
John Mack is a different one. But here's the thing. We talk about globally,
right?
But you're not going to find a John Mack more than likely in China or Japan
this
or
is true.
Africa or in this case, Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a common name. Now, maybe in the States it's possible, right?
Yeah.
But we're talking about there was 3 in different countries that died on the same day.
Were they nearby countries? Or?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Interesting.
No. I saw it somewhere and I forget what it was, but I think one was the UK. Mm-hmm. He was in, where was he at? Oh, he was in London. That's the one that's in the UK. It was him in the UK. Mm-hmm. I believe there was one in the States. Right. And then there was one somewhere else on the globe that wasn't interconnected at all.
So do you know what the other 2 guys died of?
No, they did not say that in the things I saw.
Did they say if it was accidents or if it was just like maybe?
Yeah, it was accidents.
Okay, all accidents. Okay.
Yeah, it was all accidents.
Interesting.
So you sit there and you think to yourself, man, that's quite a coincidence.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be wild if the person who caused the accident in each case also had the same name?
That would be wild.
Yeah, that would be.
That would be wild.
I think they would have noted that if they knew that. But
for sure. But here's the thing: like the one was a drunk driver, right? Mm-hmm. That's how they say that Dr. Mack died.
Yeah.
But the fact that the other 2, it's kind of like those. Remember the old mobs? They used to, such and such died in a fire, and there'd be a body. Well, there's no proof that's who it was.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I find the whole thing fascinating.
You know, so back to the kids all telling the exact same story, and there was like 60 of them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It makes me think of one of our earliest episodes. And you remember when we talked about the Jersey Devil, something that almost certainly, at least by legend, doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah.
Like it could be a cryptid that has nothing to do with the legend they tell about it.
Right.
And I'm fine with that. But 300 people saw that and described the exact same thing at a ball game.
Right.
So, does that also make that very likely to be true?
I don't know. Like we always look for patterns as humans. We look for patterns, and then we look for multiple people that have the same exact story, right?
Right.
It's like, I don't know if I got it here or not. I talked about how on my podcast, I was telling this story about Dudleyville, I think, or Dudleytown. I think we talked about this last week, I think.
Yeah, I think we did actually.
Something fascinating about that. And I truly kind of dug into it because I recorded my podcast this weekend
Right.
Here's what's interesting about that one. And tell me if you acknowledge this pattern also. Now, granted, this is over the course of hundreds of years, and I kind of pieced it all together because otherwise the story would be boring if I didn't.
Yeah.
So, according to the legend, Edward Dudley was killed because he was in this political fight with King Henry VIII.
Right.
And as everyone knows, when you basically throw accusations up against King Henry VIII, you're not going to live.
No, it's not good for your health.
No, you're 100% going to die.
Right. Makes you wonder why people ever did that.
Yeah, exactly. Not smart. Something that I found interesting, and I don't know why I didn't know this. Maybe I could have pieced this together. Like I've always been fascinated with the story about, Henry VIII and then how all that stuff worked over then, and all the kings I've always found all the king stories to be a little interesting.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Edward dies and they chopped his head off. He gone on the guillotines. His son, John Dudley, he became Duke of Northumberland.
Okay.
But here's where it's interesting. We're talking about King Edward the Sixth. John married his son to Lady Jane Grey.
Right.
So the interesting thing about because I knew stories about Lady Jane Grey because it talked about how they went into this power position. And as everyone knows, she also died via the old axe off with the head. And so did he. Now, where the story became interesting is when Edward had his head, there was a curse that was put on the family, the entire bloodline of the family, which goes back to the story you told about the Kennedy family. Very similar. So the Dudley family ends up moving across the ocean. They set up in Connecticut. They start building their home life.
Just like the Kennedys, by the way.
Just like the Kennedys, correct.
The new world, new opportunities.
And that's exactly what they did too.
Yeah.
So they found this Appalachian foothills, and they're like, this is beautiful. It's out of the cities. We're going to make it work. And there was 4 brothers. There's Abiel, Barzillai, Gideon, and Martin. So there was, I think his name is Martin. There was 4 of them. I think that's all 4 of them. Anyway, they set up, they get everything moving. And the first thing they find is all the soil sucks. Like you can't grow.
That's bad
nothing.
In those times.
Oh yeah. Everything's rocky. It's cold there because it's Connecticut. They can't get things to work. The trees are so thick that it's hard to move around it. But what's weird is they said there was never any birds.
Right.
There was never rabbits, no deers. There was nothing.
Yeah.
And it got so bad that the villagers that was on the outskirts of these woods, they called it the Dark Entry Forest.
The Dark Entry Forest.
Yes. And they said that the reason they called it that was because when you would go in there, you would hear whispers on the wind. So it's almost like witchcraft to a degree is what they said.
Right.
So Abiel Dudley, he was the first one to kind of figure out what's going on. Now that dude, he was a quiet dude. He was strong. He kept to himself. Everyone in that area said that he had a good head on his shoulders. He was a great guy. He was one of those stand-up people that you'd want to live around. You'd want to do everything. Well, all of a sudden, he's kind of out and about, and they built all these different houses there. And he's standing out there one day, and he's just kind of looking around, and he sees what he thinks is these shadows going back and forth between the trees.
Right.
And what's weird is he starts hearing these whispers. And he's trying to figure it out, and he can't understand what the whispers are. but he thought it was so weird. So he kind of became paranoid, like real bad, like frantically.
I feel like I would too in that situation.
Oh, yeah. But like when he would leave and then he would talk to villagers and stuff that's outside, he said, whatever you do, don't go past the ridge after sundown. And they'd be like, well, why? And he's like, because they're waiting out there. And they're like, who's waiting? And he's like, they are. And he would never say what it was.
Right. Well, I guess he didn't know probably.
No, but the folks around there, they're like, whatever, like he's just delusional. It's clearly there's something wrong. But this is someone that years before was like, he's super strong. He's got a good head on his shoulders. Like he's a good guy. Yeah. So all of a sudden he stopped farming. He stopped fixing stuff.
Right.
And his house, people started avoiding his house. They wouldn't even go near it.
Oh, really?
The reason why is because he said there was strange sounds that was coming out of it. It was laughter. There was crying. And once they said they claimed to hear a full conversation between Abiel and somebody else that never answered back. So he became like the guy that everyone thought was like a delusional lunatic at this point.
He's shunned now.
So in the end, they came, they got him. They called him insane and they locked him away. And when he died, he was in complete poverty, completely alone. He was afraid. His house went into unrepair and basically it just deteriorated and fell apart. That's how bad it was.
Right.
So you got Abiel's story of all that going on. I'm giving you the quick version.
Right.
Then you've got, now remember everything that we said. Nathaniel Carter, not affiliated with this guy at all.
Right.
So he had heard all about this story about Abiel and he's like, well, I'm out. That sounds crazy to me. I want no part of any of that. If that guy has that going on and I'm that close, I'm moving, boys. So he moved to New York.
Right.
When he moves to New York, he started having some issues himself. Now, again, this is a different day and age.
Yeah. Same kind of things or?
Nope. Much worse.
Okay. Oh,
so
boy.
He gets into this house. He's got a wife. He's got kids. He's got everything. He leaves one day to go do some chores that he has to go do. And he's far enough away from the house, but he gets this weird feeling in the pit of his stomach. And there's almost something that told him that something's wrong.
Right.
A group of Native American raiders came in, and before he could get back to the house, they murdered his wife.
Oh, geez.
Their infant child. 2 other of the kids that was sick in bed was killed exactly where they laid. Nathan was then captured, scalped, and left for dead. But he lived. For the rest of his life, he dealt with the torment of what happened to his wife and his kids. So a feat worse than dying was then
who
living.
would really want to live after all that?
Correct. So he did have some kids that did survive that were taken by the Native American raiders. His daughters came back eventually because they paid the ransom to get them back. But they were never the same, obviously.
Yeah.
And his son David, which they took, he was raised by the Native Americans and somehow he survived everything. He became a judge, a well-respected man, but his family was shattered and scattered. And the folks started saying, wait a second, this guy went crazy in Dudleytown. This guy leaves Dudleytown and look what happened to him.
Yeah. This is not good things come with you when you live there.
Correct. Now, this is where the story gets even weirder. Not far from where Nathaniel's nightmare was, his brother, he lived just on the edge of Dudleytown because, like I said, that entire family, they kind of lived there. He didn't have any problems. There was no questions. He just wanted peace. All of a sudden, he had in his household, it was like a small cough and a little bit of a fever. But within days, the sickness tore through the entire household.
Right.
Didn't matter what the health of anyone was. It killed everybody in the household. Now, the weird thing, it didn't spread to any of the neighbors.
Wow.
And those neighbors was going to try to help them.
Right.
Never caught anything.
Yeah, and they weren't being shunned or anything, so they had probably been around town just before that.
Correct. So now they're going, well, what's the odds? Like, we've been around this. How did we not catch it? Because at first it was just like a common cold, and then the fever came in, and then it killed everyone in the household. And what's every story? Well, it spreads, and then other people catch it, and then that's how it all happened. Not in this case. Entire family line dead.
Yeah, because if it started slow like that, people would still be coming around, and they'd be going places for ages.
Right.
And you're contagious that whole time.
Correct. And most of the time they say you're most contagious when you have a fever.
Right, right.
And that's when they were going to try to help, and no one else got it. So now they're asking, is that the curse? Like, he's in or right on the edge of Dudleytown.
Yeah.
Then, not long after, there's this other guy's name's Gershon. Now, Gershon's out. He's trying to help his neighbor build this barn. He's up on the scaffolding. He's building it. All of a sudden, dropped down and fell to his death. Now, a lot of people's like, it's the different day and age. It's very possible. But what was weird was this was common play back then. Accidents do happen.
Right.
But Tanner, the man that he was building the barn for, he said that there was a reason that all happened.
A reason?
He said there was a reason. He said he had seen things in the woods before that fall happened. And what he said was he didn't stumble and fall. He just fell like I think he called it like a bag of potatoes.
Right.
Hit the ground. Like he was dead in the air before he even hit the ground.
Oh, he didn't really die from the fall.
That's what Tanner said. Tanner said that he believed he died up on top of that barn scaffolding, and he was dead before he hit the ground.
Man, that's crazy.
Now, William Tanner, when this all happened, all of a sudden he started acting funny. And what people around town thought was it's grief. He was over there. He's trying to help him with his own barn. Clearly, this is a man that's struck. But all of a sudden, what they said was he started kind of looking around all the time. His eyes was always darting. And his hands would always twitch. And pretty soon, they started kind of asking him some questions about what was going on. And he just stopped talking to the people that lived around there. And he kind of kept to himself. He would shut his curtains during the daytime. And what they said was, well, he's clearly, guess what they said? He's becoming a little crazy. But when they did talk to him, he would say that he would see just a flicker of things in the corners of his eyes. And he'd see shadows that would move when there was nothing that was supposed to be out there. And he would hear whispers coming from the woods.
Just like Nathaniel.
A constant theme, right?
Yeah.
It didn't take very long, but they said they would find him outside during odd hours, barefoot, wide eyes, and muttering about the figures in the tree lines. He said they were always watching and always plotting, and that's why Gershon died. So, the people around town, they're like, golly, like what's up with all these crazy people? Like, what's going on? So eventually they was trying to figure out, okay, well, what can we do to kind of help this guy out? Because clearly he's in a bad spot.
Yeah.
We don't want to see someone else fall. We don't want it to be a case where, he's struggling. He ended up to the point to where he died, and he died completely weak, lonely, and broken, just like everyone else in the story. So it's not even a case where they're just dying randomly. Like this event happens and then another thing happens, and then it's uncontrollable and they just lose everything.
Yeah. Well, like a small town that basically empties itself out like that.
Correct.
Like you can't just think that's coincidence.
100%. Now, this is where it gets even crazier, right? Like all these crazy things are happening.
Right.
These are just normal foes though, right? No one knows who these people are.
Right.
And then in our story, we're going to bring a guy in. He's a general. And in fact, he was a hero of the Revolutionary War. His name was General Herman Swift.
Okay.
Now, we're talking about Revolutionary War. For those of us that nowadays we think about in tanks and planes. And no. When you went to war back then, you were staring down cannon fire.
Yeah.
You were looking at the guns because you couldn't be that far away from each other. Like this is a man who had saw everything.
Yeah. You're reloading. You're like,
yes,
you know, black powder and
correct. Now he was a general underneath George Washington.
Oh, wow.
So kind of a big deal. Like this guy was high up in the military.
Mm.
He was married to a lady named Sarah. So they end up moving near Dudleytown because it seemed like a picturesque place. They're like, man, this place is beautiful.
Right.
One day it's 1804 and there's a storm rolling in.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah decides that she enjoys sometimes listening to the rain and stuff. She steps out on the porch and bam, lightning strikes her dead.
Just scared the heck out of me.
That was the whole point. So one bolt, 1 second, she's dead and gone. Now the general, he's seen all these things on this battlefield.
Right.
He doesn't even know what to do. Like he's completely shattered. That was his entire
life. He's not
life.
seen that before.
Never seen that before. So as days would slip by, people would come by because he was a hero.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, is there anything that we can do for you? You know, it's got to be difficult, you know, with your wife, and we're so sorry. And he said some very interesting things. Now, you got to understand, he didn't know the folklore of this area at all.
Right.
What he said was that for him, it wasn't obviously a good thing, but he was afraid to go to sleep with the lights off. And they said, why is that? And he goes, there's just a lot of things that's going on that I can't really explain. But, you know, this is going to sound weird. And I know you're not going to understand it, but Sarah never really left me. Like, she's here. And they're like, what do you mean she's here? And he goes, I hear her whispers in the wood lines. And they're like, what are you talking about? And he goes, I hear other voices too, but it's like it's in the wind. It's in the woods. Like I can always hear it. And just like Tanner, he faded. Everyone thought that, again, he was crazy.
Right.
So they kind of left him, and piece by piece, the guy deteriorated and he also died.
He's probably out amongst those things in the woods now too.
Probably.
Yeah.
Now, another man comes in. His name's John Brophy.
Okay.
Now, John, he was chasing riches or not riches. He was basically trying to find like his peace in living. Right. So he wasn't chasing a lot of the crazy stuff, but he's trying to chase a living. But he goes out there and he's like, man, like this is such a nice place. I could put a farm out here. Everything would look great. So he puts everything out there. He goes out to work one morning. Again, he moved right there outside of Dudleytown. And when he moved out there, he walks out one day and his entire flock of sheep are gone.
Oh, just disappeared like that.
All of them. Every last one of them. No tracks, no blood, no sign of struggle.
No fence or anything like that? Or
nope. Complete silence.
Wow.
Then his wife, that's in completely good health, she fell ill with no prior ailments. Like she just went from completely healthy to really sick.
I wonder if it was anything like that other family that got sick.
Sounds very similar, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Couple days go by, she's dead. Not long after losing his wife, he comes home one day, both of his sons completely gone.
Just disappeared. Them
completely gone. So he's going around town trying to figure out what's going on. And what people around town said, well, they thought his sons was thieves and maybe they was running from the cops.
What were they basing that on?
No one knows, because here's the thing that they don't talk about when it comes to Dudleytown.
Right.
There was nothing there. What are they stealing?
Yeah. Right. And from whom?
Correct. There was no reason.
It was probably a small enough town that everyone knew each other. They must have known no one was stealing anything.
100%.
Right.
So they assumed that all this stuff was going on. All of a sudden, after his sons were just completely gone.
Yeah.
All of a sudden he started to not go into town. Again, he started shutting himself inside the house. He wouldn't answer when people would come and knock. And now and then people would spot him. And guess where he was always going?
Into the wood line there?
To the edge of the tree line. And when they would ask him why he was out there, he said that the shadows whispered to him at night. And said that there's shadows in the trees that's always watching him. One night, the folks go out and they see this blazing fire coming from the woods.
Right.
They go out there to find that his house is completely set ablaze. Like the entire thing is completely gone. But when they look at everything once the fire went out, again, there was no fire department back then.
Right. It just had to burn.
When they got there, no body, no bones, just ashes, nothing. Now, some of the villagers said, well, he probably died in the fires. Others said that they believe he vanished just like his son and was dragged into the woods by whatever this was. Because he kept talking about all these crazy things that was in the woods like everyone else had.
Yeah.
Then you got, now understand, these are all a series of maybe 50 years, 60 years, 70 years.
Right.
Then there is this lady, her name is Mary Greeley. Her husband, Horace Greeley, he's a newspaper man, and he decided he wanted to be president. So he started running for president.
Oh, I said, okay. I haven't heard of that one, but I'm assuming he didn't make it.
He did not. Do you know why?
He died.
All of a sudden, with a week to go and he's ahead.
Yeah.
Mary went insane and unsubscribed herself from life.
Oh. Yikes.
Out of nowhere.
And they were living in Dudleytown at the time?
Right on the edge.
Right on the edge.
All of a sudden, that happened to him. He ends up completely pulling out of the campaign, loses, obviously. But the weird thing is, they said that whenever other people would talk to her, she wasn't really normal. They said that for the last week or so before that, she started becoming sad. She was sinking into depression, and for no good reason. Her husband was winning the campaign. But she said all of a sudden, these were people that was talking after this because he was out on the campaign trail. They said that when they talked to her, she said that things was whispering to her that no one else could hear.
It would be such a coincidence if people were just making this up.
Like, what's the odds?
Again, right?
Like, it just doesn't make sense.
It's so consistent.
Well, you would think that that's, kind of like, how many more of these stories can you have?
Yeah.
Dr. William Clark and his wife, Harriet, they ended up kind of moving near Dudleytown also.
Right.
And what they ended up doing, and you got to understand, William Clark, he was a respected cancer specialist out of New York.
Right.
Highly educated, very rational, grounded in science. He didn't move there looking for the stories or anything like that. When they get out there, he and his wife, they bought a stretch of land, and it was near Dudleytown. So it wasn't in.
Not quite in, but.
Wasn't quite in, but close enough.
Right. Yeah.
When they get there, they're pretty excited because things are going extremely well. One summer day, William gets called back to the city because he's got this thing that he's trying to do. When he comes back, he's expecting his wife to be waiting on the porch, super excited. She's inside the house, and the way he knew she was in there was he heard this laughing. He found her curled up in the corner of their bedroom, laughing, and she had went completely insane.
Oh, really?
Yes. She couldn't form sentences, just fragments, and when she would speak, she would talk about the whispers and shadowy figures in the trees.
Just like all the others.
Said that they were watching her, said they never blink. Harriet never came back from where she was at. In her final days, she was spent locked away in fear until her passing days. As far as William, he kind of he lost his way also and truly didn't make it either. Now, where I found out about some of this stuff and what I found super interesting, there's like tons of these stories I can go on and on.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing in 1970.
So we're getting way more modern now here.
There was a dynamic duo that everybody knew.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know of any investigation teams that was around back then?
Oh, when I hear dynamic duo, I assume it is Batman and Robin.
So, I mean, pretty close. Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Ah, they did this one.
They went because they heard so many of these stories that was happening. Right. They had to understand what was going on. They wrote a book about it, or is in part of a book that they wrote.
Okay.
And what's interesting was when they got there, they acknowledged the fact that there was never any animals. No matter how long they was out there, they never saw any animals.
It's because there's danger.
There was danger. Now, what they did find, and I thought you would find this fascinating, is marked and carved in the trees, they found symbols and rituals.
Really?
That was being performed.
That is fascinating.
The Warrens believed that the people was messing with things that they had no concept of what they was dealing with. They thought that there was a satanic practice. They also believed that it was some dark rituals that was happening.
Right.
In fact, when Lorraine said she got there, she said that she was attacked by an entity shortly after she got there.
So do they think that the townspeople throughout generations have been doing it, or just people way back?
They believe that something happened possibly back in the old days, but then people out of curiosity started doing the same thing and opening. We talk about this all the time.
Right.
Opening portals that they don't understand they're opening.
And there's a lot of crazy stuff in the Appalachia.
Yes.
All these stories you hear out of there are like the old mountain magics and the old witchcraft and
right.
All that stuff. That stuff I think was really prevalent in those mountain ranges.
Yep. Now I've got to kill some of your guys' excitement off because I always put a part in my podcast called Skeptical Views.
Yeah. I don't want to hear this part. I'm just kidding.
Nick's like, nope, don't tell me this.
Cut, we're done. No, just kidding.
So there was a guy, his name was Gary Dudley. Sound familiar?
Of course, he doesn't want people to believe this about a town named after him.
He was actually a direct descendant of the Dudley family that supposedly died in England.
Right.
He did some serious digging, and what he found was through the records of genealogy, birth and death certificate, immigration logs, everything, he found that there was no direct link between the Dudleys of Dudleytown and Edmund Dudley.
Okay.
So if the connection was real, then or if the connection isn't real, then the curse, there's no way it could have happened, is what he said.
Right.
And when he started digging real heavy, what he found was it traced all the way back to a 1938 article, a piece that, according to Gary, twisted a lot of the facts to make it sound more dramatic.
Right.
So basically there was this legend and it kind of snowballed is what he was saying. But I always like saying, but
yeah,
the believers, they're like, first off, I don't believe all that. And even if there's no correlation between the Dudleys of the UK, England, and then the United States, who's to say that that name was cursed and that curse doesn't still follow the Dudleys to another area?
I don't even think that matters at all. I think the land is cursed.
Which is very possible. It's very possible.
Right, because there were people who weren't Dudleys having trouble. Like
Correct.
A lot of them.
A lot of them. In fact, the fringe theories kind of fall into that.
Yeah.
Generational curse was the most relevant.
Right.
Another one, which I thought was kind of interesting, magnetic anomalies. Some folks believe that Dudleytown may be sitting on some kind of weird energy spot, like an electromagnetic hotspot or a natural distortion and like the Earth's magnetic
national
field.
park or something.
It might be in a national park.
Yeah, we'll have to check that part out.
Interesting fact.
Uh-huh.
And I was going to hold this till the end, but since we're talking about it here, you can now not go to that area.
Oh, really? Explain this part to me.
Is being completely covered by military presence, and you're not allowed in.
For what purpose? They just happen to make a base there? Or?
They say it's to protect people because they have this theory about what's going on and they don't want people to go there and get themselves hurt.
Well, that makes me want to go so much more.
I know, right?
Why would they even do this? They should just not said anything.
Thought it was super interesting. Like, what's the odds that would happen? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
And then the third theory, and we kind of talk about this loses some people from time to time, but interdimensional doorways. And they tied it to Native American legends and the rumor of the occult rituals that would sometimes happen in the eyes of most people. But it's kind of an interesting story that all this happens, then they go, no, this is not really real, kind of what happened. And then all of a sudden they lock it down. No one's allowed in.
Right. Yeah. That's the strangest, most telling part of this whole thing for me.
Right. Correct.
Like I so want to go there and like sneak in now.
Oh, me too. That's the thing. Once you tell me I'm not allowed in, I kind of want in.
Yeah. I want to go 10 times more. They should have just not said anything, or they should have tried to lure us there.
Correct.
And then we'd be like, no, I ain't doing what you tell me.
Can't go.
I don't do what the government tells me.
Exactly. What about you at home? Would y'all go at home if they told you wasn't allowed in? Does it make you want to go in more? I'm dying to know.
Do you do what the man tells you?
Yeah. Are you following what the man tells you to do?
Yeah. Why?
If you do, the man tells you better subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah. And if you don't, the man told you not to.
Yeah. Man told you not to. Joke's on you. He told you not to.
Yeah. You got to now.
Y'all enjoyed the podcast. I enjoyed telling these stories. I know Nick obviously loves coming along for the ride and telling his stories. Wherever you're listening to our podcast, make sure you give us that thumbs up and tell people about us. I thought you was going to say something, Nick.
Nope.
My bad.
I want him to do that.
Exactly. But hopefully y'all enjoyed it until we see you in the next podcast. Goodbye, little Dudleytown.
Don't follow the man.
Don't follow the man. Because he's probably in the tree lines. Peeking around whispering.
He never blinks.